Welcome back, CSC 235, to part 3 of our database section after a little delay here, but I'm using PythonAnywhere right now, and you might have used it before, you may not have, you may already have an account. So I created a new account because I think my other one under RM Homa was old. So one thing you can do is just go to Account, if you haven't done this, and go to Education, and I'm going to put me as my teacher. That way I could kind of see things the way you see it, but make sure you do this. Homa WCCC is going to be your teacher, and just hit check. And then I'll get some email saying that, RM Homa has subscribed to your course, or whatever, not your course, but as a teacher. So anyway, a couple things we want to show here in PythonAnywhere. If you haven't worked with it, they have consoles where you could work with Bash consoles. You could work directly in the MySQL console. You could work in Python consoles, which you really wouldn't want to. And we could work with our database consoles, which we will do once we create a database. It'll open it up in that MySQL database. So that way you don't have to search around for that particular database. Now, we do that in the database class, and I could show a little bit, but I think I have videos on that already. But we have consoles, we have our dashboard where you can create files and open up Python files, all kinds of things in here. So it's a nice place online to work with terminals and Bash and work with that a little bit if you don't want to do it on your regular computer, on terminal or whatever. And sometimes if we have an online class, it's nice to do it here because everybody's kind of seeing the same thing. The only thing, it doesn't save it. So sometimes we'll just make text files of them. And it's really easy to make files. You come here and here's your files, and there's kind of default files here, and you can create your own directories, which are folders. So if you want to create a folder called CSC 235, do that, then it's there. Now you have a directory called CSC 235. You can't just hit enter. Oh yeah, you can, but hit new directory. But here I'm in home, my username, and I'm in CSC 235. So this is your directory that you're in. So you're going to want to use your username when you make a database. It'll have that username, a $, and your database name. And you can upload any files here. So I'm going to upload a file in here. What am I going to upload in here? I'm going to upload my database file that I just made from phpMyAdmin, SQL file. You don't have to zip it or anything. If it is zipped, you should unzip it on your own computer because I think it'll take an SQL file, but there is a way to unzip things in the terminal. If you just use the SQL file, it should upload it without a problem. There it is. And to look at it, you just click on it. There it is. You could save it. You can go back or whatever. You could go back to files right here. But this is the SQL file we made with all that SQL code. See, there's my insert into characters. This will create the database that we create. So that's how we were able to recreate it in phpMyAdmin. So this is an SQL file that we're working with right here. It's just text. So nothing special. It's a different language, different ways of doing things. Again, the problem with learning web stuff is there's lots of different languages and lots of different ways of doing things. Even you saw with JavaScript, there's Node, there's Express, and just because you know JavaScript makes it a little easier, but not always. Just because you know Python, it doesn't make Flask or Django or any of that much easier. It's just you need time to do that. So anyway, I'm not doing anything with this file, so I'll just go back. And this should take me back to my files right here. I'm in files, consoles. I don't have any consoles open. I'm going to go over to databases because this is what you're going to do. You're going to go to databases. Now, note the name of your file, whatever it is, with your initials or whatever. So I'm going to go to databases, and I'm going to create a new database. Now, pay attention to this. Now, if you've done this already in the past, you had a course in the past, I think we used a password of admin. And you could just keep it admin. And I think I'll just do that because that's what I did in the past. So I'll just make a password of admin. Sometimes it's root. You just do root. But I'll do admin, A-D-M-I-N, just to be consistent of what I did in the past, admin. And I'll initialize MySQL. Password is too short. Must contain 8 characters. That's new. Maybe I did MySQL admin. So I guess we can't use root. So let's do MySQL admin. And we'll do MySQL admin. So let's do that and initialize it. And remember, the username will be your username for PythonAnywhere. So this should take a minute or so. And there we go. Now, it does make a default database, but we're going to make a new one. So there it is. And this is your host address. Now, unfortunately, you can't just go into Replit and connect to this. It won't let you do it. Not with a free account. I think if you have a pay account, there may be a way you can get to your MySQL database, but with a free account, you could only use it inside PythonAnywhere, which is okay. Hey, it's free, and it's for learning, so that's what we're doing here. Now, we'll still need this if we connect with something else, even working in Python Anywhere. And we do have our password, which everybody should just use MySQL admin. I wouldn't waste time making a new one. So here's my default database. There's nothing really in it that we have to worry about. And you don't have to do a password right here unless you need to change it or anything. But what I'm going to do is create a database. And you're going to do this. So create a database. In databases, as long as you set up that password, you should be okay. So we're going to create a database. And I'll just call it SBRMH. Same name. Give it the same name. SBRMH _ and I'll create that database. Now there's going to be nothing in it, but the thing is I can go here and click on it and it'll take me into my console. And if you have any consoles open, you could go here and close them. Now this will jump from page to page. So if you ever need to open something and keep 2 tabs open, just like I do here, I have a tab open here. And actually I'm going to close this. And I think that's from another account, from my other account. So if you need to go into files or something while you're here, you can always just go here, right click, and say open link in new tab. And that way you could keep multiple tabs open in Python Anywhere. It doesn't open them automatically. But anyway, if you want to get into your database, you could go here. Now there's nothing in it right now, so you wouldn't see anything. But it does select that database, so you don't even have to select it. It knows to go in there. It's like going into phpMyAdmin and clicking on your database. That's what it's doing, but there's nothing in it, so you have to create it. I mean, you don't have to create it because you already did create it, but we have to populate it. So how do you populate it? Well, you can just run the file. Now, we're in the MySQL interpreter for that database. Now, there's nothing in here, so if we select the database and show tables or there's nothing in there. So what we're going to do is we're going to basically run that code from our SQL file and populate it. So we could do it this way. We'll do source space, and then you have to use your folder. So if you'd want to go over here and say, well, I don't remember what it was named, but you just have to remember what folder you're in. So if I open files up in a new tab, and that's what I mean, so you don't want to get out of here. And there's my directory. It's CSC235. That's where I put that file in. It's in CSC235, all lowercase, and that's where that file is. So I want to run this file. So I want to make sure I put in CSC235, click in here, CSC235 / and I actually want to do the name of the file. I don't want to do, this is not the name, this is the name of the database. This is the name of the file that we're using as the source to create our database or to populate it. So SBRMH SQL. SB is for SpongeBob. And RMH, that's mine, you could use yours, and then .sql, so it knows the extension of the file. So that's what it's going to use as the source. So you have to type it like that. And remember, you can't just move back and forth. You have to use your like cursor or backspace and stuff like that if you type something wrong. So we're going to run this in the MySQL interpreter for that database, and it should populate it. Now, I think we can just do it without putting a semicolon. I think we could just do it like this. So I'm going to hit enter or return. And that looks good because it did queries here, but it says 9 rows affected. 9 rows. Well, we remember we had, well, it's not here anymore, but we had 9 characters in our database. So we could go down here and say show tables. Let's try that. Show tables. And there's characters. And let's do select. Here we're just doing SQL, structured query language. Select all, uses a asterisk, from, and then characters. I'll put a semicolon, and this should show me there's our database. So we just did, if I look back on what I did to start, I did this first. I ran that once I was in my database in the interpreter. I ran that, and as long as everything's good, I exported everything okay, and you could see I didn't do a lot. I just hit export. As long as I do that, and I'm in the correct folder, and it's the correct file name, and it has .sql, it should be fine. And it created that database. It created that table characters because I did show tables, and there it is. And then I did select all from characters, and it showed all of them. Now I could even do queries in here. I could do select all from characters where, and notice they put the keywords in caps, where color, there's color. Now I don't have to do the backticks here. I think we just have to do where color equals gray. And I think gray has to be in quotes. Let's see. I haven't done this for a while. Let's see. Select all from characters where color equals gray. I don't think the column names have to be in quotes, but I think these have to be in quotes because we're using a string. So let's see. And that works. So it shows me Squidward, Pearl, and Squilliam. So the whole idea here that we're getting to is that, who's going to be doing this? This is a way to actually get information, retrieve information. The R is for read. And I guess that's what we're doing. It could be retrieve as well. We're retrieving filtered information from the database, and we're writing SQL code. But the idea is you want to do it on the front end. So you could basically type in a form and do things like that and actually have it come to an HTML page. That's the whole idea of back end, is like getting through this database and then having it come out on the front end. We're all back end right now, so we're not doing anything too much fun. We're not working with what our users would do. Our users aren't going to go into our SQL here. This is private. We want them to be on the front end, so that's why we could use things like Flask and Node.js and things like that. It's not easy, especially going through these certain IDEs. PythonAnywhere has its own restrictions. It doesn't really work with PHP. I don't think it works with Node either. I'd have to check and see if we could use Node in here to try and connect to this MySQL database. But we'll try. But let's get to here first. Let's get your database in here. And then basically for this assignment, that's all you have to do is just really get in here. We'll do some more with it. But going into PHPMyAdmin, using the front end to kind of create a database, and then going into PythonAnywhere and importing it in here. Now, none of this stuff is really hard. I find this much easier than any of that stuff in MongoDB and Flask, Node.js. I find that stuff a lot more complicated and a lot more brain power. And, it's just, I'm comfortable with doing this. I've done this for a number of years, so I'm familiar with it. I'm not an expert at it, but I'm comfortable with doing it. I know where to look up and find stuff. If I have a problem, I go to W3 Schools. It has everything about SQL. It's not that hard. It's just retrieving information from a table. That's all it really is. But all this connection code, that's very complicated. So that's not easy, and getting it to work through an IDE is not easier. But for now, that's all you have to do for ex12. So when you're done, you could just go in your add comment for ex12 and just put your username in there. And hopefully you added me, because then I could just see it. When I go into home at WCCC, I could go to my dropdown, I'll see your username. But put it in your add comment for ex12 so that I see it and I know who you are and I look for you. So if I don't see it, I can say, hey, I don't see your username. And by the way, if you ever did something in here and you were like, well, how do I save this? Because this will go away. Your console will eventually close. But if you go in here, and I forget how you do this again. I think you do, let me go here and go to the bottom and hold shift. There we go. Click shift and hold everything. So it highlighted all this stuff. I don't think it'll highlight that because that's just the prompt. So if you wanted to keep this and prove that you did it, or for some reason be like, oh, I did it, but it's not here. If you wanted to copy this for whatever reason, it's just text. You could copy. You could do Command C and then copy it, and then go to your files. Now make sure, before you get rid of this, you go here and make a file. And if you just wanted to make a new file, you make a new file this way and just put first, whatever, console, I'll call this ex12 console output. That's really long. You could shorten it, but that's what I'm looking for here. And put .txt, make it a text file. So ex12 console output, just for the start of what we did. This isn't everything yet. We're just kind of getting started here. But if you make a new file, you could paste that stuff, and now you have everything saved. You even have your commands, so you know what you did in here. You know that you went in here and you did source and you did that, and I could see everything you did. So that's one way. Just going in here, I don't see this as like a repel or REPL or anything like that. But if you make a text file, then I could go look at your text file, and then you have it saved. But make sure you hit save when you're done. So now you have a text file, so if you ever want to save anything that you're working on, and again, from your console, I couldn't remember how to do that. Basically click at the top or double click one word at the top and then hold shift and click at the bottom, and it gets everything. And then you can do Control C and Control V and paste it somewhere, but it doesn't do a Control A. If you go in here, I don't think, click off of here, you go down here. If you double click in here somewhere and you do Control A, it doesn't know to copy everything. So you have to kind of start up here. I think you have to just highlight a word, like highlight a word welcome, and then hold shift and click down here. and should get everything. So that's the way to do it if you want to copy that and paste it into a text file. Then just go to your files and make a txt file. So that's what I did here. So make sure you indicate me as your instructor, HOMA WCCC, and that's a little start with MySQL. I apologize for all this kind of redirecting here. Believe me, I'm trying everything I can to get MongoDB and all this stuff. It's a lot of this is new for me, and I'm just trying to give you an opportunity to explore all these kind of back-end operations other than just plowing through one thing in particular, like JavaScript or WordPress or anything like that. Not that I'm not going to still try and do that, but we're running out of time here. And then I had like 5 or 6 days when I was working on this stuff. It wasn't working in a way where I thought it would really be beneficial for you, other than you just hate it. You'd be like, well, I wanted to do back-end, but that really looks like not a lot of fun. So anyway, this is working with a MySQL database, which I think makes more sense because it's just a table and you have some options that are free. Again, if we worked with a virtual server, we'd have a little bit more we could do. And maybe next time we'll do that. But for now, we worked with phpMyAdmin, which is front end to MySQL databases or MySQL databases, however you want to pronounce it. And then we went into PythonAnywhere, another IDE. Not as good as Replit, not as nice and cool themes and all that kind of stuff, but it does create SQL databases, which is not many others do that. Replit does not do that. Replit can connect to MongoDBs using the right connection protocols. If you can find them through this, and if I can find a way to make this any easier for you, we'll do that. But there's a lot going on here, and it's just hasn't not been easy. And there's like 10 different ways that I've seen you can do this, and not one has worked in Replit yet. So anyway, that's ex12. We'll stop there for ex12. Anything after that, that'll be ex13. So hopefully you enjoyed working with MySQL a little bit, and we'll do a little bit more in PythonAnywhere for ex13. And as long as we could work with a database, we'll work in here and use some Python to do that. I know we did some of that in Programming 1, but we'll try to see if we can work with Flask, something else in here that's a little more web-based to do that. So see you in ex13.